This year brought a lot of unexpected blockbuster headlines when it came to the courtroom, from celebrities to decades-old convictions. That includes the new push to release Eric and Lyle Menendez, of course, the brothers who are nearly 30 years into life sentences for killing their parents. Scott Peterson was now hoping to have his 2004 conviction overturned for the murder of his wife, Laci Peterson, and unborn child more than 2 decades ago. Here with us now to break it all down is trial attorney and legal analyst Misty Marris. Misty, always great to see you.
You too.
Busy year as we look back on it. Let's go to earlier this year. Let's talk about President-elect Trump. He was found guilty for hush money payments to adult film actress Stormy Daniels. And of course, he paid those from campaign funds. The Manhattan DA is now fighting to keep that case from getting dismissed. Misty, where do things stand now? And where do you think Judge Merchan is weighing as we head into the new year, into 2025?
Well, you're absolutely right. 2024 has been quite a remarkable year. And to start with this case against now President-elect Donald Trump, at the time of the trial, former President Donald Trump. So this was really a total case of first impression. This was something that had never been done before, prosecuted at the state level. And of course, as you said, it resulted in a conviction. But there's so much happening at the current moment. And that's why you've seen the sentencing for that guilty conviction get punted time and time again. So before you can even get to that sentencing, Hannah, there's several motions that are pending before Judge Merchan seeking for these cases to be dismissed. One relating to Donald Trump now being voted president of the United States, saying that retroactively that should extinguish that conviction. That's one argument. Again, novel argument, case of first impression. The other argument relates to the Supreme Court immunity decision and what the defense is asking for the verdict to be overturned. And for Judge Merchan, from his perspective, he has to go through the record of that trial and make a determination about whether or not any of the evidence that was presented would now be basically not allowed to be in that trial because of that Supreme Court determination. So from a procedural perspective, there's still motion practice pending before we could even get to that sentence.
So this is going to take some time.
Yes, this is absolutely going to take some time. And look, prosecutors have already said that they're open to the idea of just punting that sentencing back 4 years until the presidency of Donald Trump is over and then revisiting it. So will that happen? There's so many unprecedented issues in the case. We're unlikely to see any resolution before Inauguration Day.
Let's head to another case making headlines. As of now, there are something like 300 cases against disgraced music mogul Sean Diddy Combs. Federal charges include sex trafficking and kidnapping. Misty, what are your thoughts on this case and, of course, the wide-ranging indictments that Diddy is facing?
Right. This is an ever-evolving case, and right now we know he's indicted on RICO charges, sex trafficking, and that trial is scheduled to go forward in May. But Hannah, there's so much to do in between now, the beginning of the new year, and May, that we could see a superseding indictment from prosecutors. We know a grand jury was convening not so long ago, so there could be more charges that are added. Keeping in mind that we also have all of these civil cases, which are different than the criminal case, but the civil cases, to the extent that there is some overlap, we could see additional witnesses and more information coming out of the woodwork that could potentially impact that criminal case. My prediction is it's probably not going forward in May. There's probably going to be some delays, significant motion practice to come from the defense side.
You think that's going to be punted down as well?
Absolutely.
All right, let's talk about the Menendez brothers. The two brothers, Lyle, Eric, were convicted after 2 trials of murdering their parents in 1989. Over the past few months, we've seen renewed momentum to get them released, thanks in part to that Netflix series. You and I have talked about that series before. What has changed about this case now 30 years later, Misty?
Well, certainly the public momentum is, it's like this case just happened and that it's not 30 years old, the level that everybody has such intense
almost
interest
obsessed
in it.
with it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And of course, whenever you have documentaries, the Netflix series, all of that, that's going to renew interest in a case. But this case is unique because now they've had some very significant success in the courtroom with respect to resentencing, but a major change has happened. So the prosecutors, Gascon, who was the prosecutor at the time, the DA, had recommended resentencing, which would make the Menendez brothers eligible for parole immediately. But you know what? That happened right before the election. So now a new incoming district attorney still contemplating whether or not he's going to move forward with the recommendation of Gascon, or is he going to recommend that they serve their sentence? a review of everything is happening, so nothing's really guaranteed. However, hearing's going to take place, and a judge will ultimately decide whether resentencing is the right course of action. And keep in mind, there's also a pending habeas corpus petition, which is a different avenue, and there's still, before the governor of California, Gavin Newsom, a request for clemency, which would be another means of reducing the sentence, possibility of parole. That's been the can's been kicked down the road until the district attorney and the judge make that determination.
I have less than a minute. There's so much to get to, but I want to ask about Scott Peterson. That trial, 20 years after he was convicted, a judge has granted Peterson's legal team access to new evidence as they push for a new trial to overturn his conviction, of course, in the murder of his wife and unborn child. What stood out to you this time around?
Well, so this time around, first of all, the Innocence Project taking it up. That's an organization that has a lot of resources. But while there's a victory because there's a piece of evidence that's allowed to be retested, this is a 15-inch piece of tape of duct tape, so that's significant. There were 13 other pieces of evidence that the judge said no testing. So it's kind of a hedged victory in the sense that, yes, there's going to be some post-conviction discovery granted to the Innocence Project, but it is certainly not as sweeping of a victory as what they were requesting.
So 2025 may be a little insane as well when it comes to these court cases.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like we're slowing down.
No. All right, Misty Marris, always a pleasure, my friend. Thank you.
Thank you.